All right, and welcome to Talk with John Michael for today, October 15th, 2025. I can't believe we're in the middle of October already. Very happy that you've joined us or are watching this today. And so my good friend John Michael Lander has a wonderful guest today, as he always does.
Mm.
So Lily Sanders Tese's journey into professional writing began with her award-winning book, Truth to Triumph. Springboarding into major media TV, she was featured on ABC, New York Eyewitness News, Newsmax, Fox, CBS, NBC, iHeartRadio, and more, myth-busting the common beliefs about domestic violence. She considers ABC's Bill Ritter a respected mentor, but today Lily is paving her way as a film and TV writer, creating entertainment that awakens hearts and evokes loving social change. Her newest drama plot pilot for TV is already winning awards and is currently under consideration. I can't wait to hear more about that. Lily is dedicated to creating entertainment that brings real and raw stories that can speak the truth in love without sacrificing honesty and peace. Lily is excited to share the pre-launch of her new podcast, Up Until Now, which will reflect testimonies that can speak truth into people's lives. So all of that sounds absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to hear more. So I will turn it over to John Michael. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you so much. It's so exciting to be here and to be here with Lily, a dear friend of mine. And this is going to be an adventure because whenever Lily and I get together and start talking, we never know where it's going to go. There's always twists and turns, but it always ends up being a very interesting and an enlightening conversation. And I hope that you all can fasten your seatbelts because this is going to be an exciting ride. I'm actually coming in from Orlando today. I'm down here at the Just Conference. I have been presenting here this whole week, and I get this opportunity to get away from there and come and talk to you. And welcome, welcome, dear friend.
Thank you, my dear friend. It's so wonderful to be here. Always a pleasure and an honor to be talking with you. Always, always. Thank
It's
you.
it's always exciting to figure out which direction we're going to go today, or whenever we get together, because there have been times when I've been able to be a guest on your podcast before. We flipped the switch before. We changed places, and
Mhm.
at one time we had questions all lined out, and we'd get to the first two, and then all of a sudden the questions we had later on. We're not ready for that podcast because we took a different turn. And
So
that's what's
true.
really exciting with you because
Yeah.
it's all about love. It's all about change. It's all about choices. You're going to all love this woman because if I do, you have to. So first of all, first of all, I just want to share and have you just tell a little bit about your story, if you don't mind,
Okay.
to whatever length you want to, and then we're going to dive in. Okay. I just
Okay.
want people to get a little bit about who Lily is, and how she is
Sure.
who she is today.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit about my story. Grew up as a ballerina in the dance world since I was 3 or 4. I want to be a dancer. I want to be in Hollywood. I want to do acting and all of that since I was very young. I had I had challenging upbringing. My parents were great and loving. My dad was violent, however, and but it seemed to keep me more focused on my dance, and I just was living the dream. Fast forward, and I was traveling as a showgirl dancer with Ringling Brothers Bonner and Bailey Circus. I came back. I did Star Search. Actually, that was in reverse. I did Star Search first, then I traveled as a showgirl. Then I came back to New York, and I kind of dove into all of hardcore acting, classes and courses and all kinds of workshops and whatnot. And was working off Broadway in several shows in theater in New York City. And I guess just on my way to kind of enjoying my dream or on my way, up, I did, as Becky was saying, I did, One Life to Live. I did a couple of films and all kinds of fun stuff. And then I just took this 180 pivot in my book, Truth to Triumph. I call it the path left of center. That's my book. And the path left of center just kind of took me into two in a row relationships damaged, with damaged people, individuals, in which I married. And I wound up really living behind a veil of silence as a battered wife for uh, years, years. And one day I guess I ran for my life, and not it's not as easy, or it's not as hard as you may think. And we could talk about that or not, or you could read my book. It's in my book. And then fast forward after that, it was navigating through life after running for my life with my son, navigating through that. Of course, it wasn't the end of trials and tribulations, and in at some point, it felt like even more like the beginnings of. And in any event, I um, I have to say that my okay, I know my camera's off, so I'm going to try. Time. I have to say, at any event, I thought like everything was really going to be better right away. It wasn't. So it took a good decade to figure out why the heck this happened. Why am I here? There's got to be a greater purpose and all of that fun stuff. And so here I am today. Yes, I do. As Becky said, I do speak as an advocate for major media and domestic violence. And not only a woman's advocate, but mostly because I'm a woman. That's what a lot of people, that's my target. That's my area that people love to talk to me about. But in general, I kind of swung back into the industry of entertainment. So yeah, I'm writing some really great stuff, and I'm having a great time, and life coaching.
Right, right. And I want to say that you have helped me along the way so much. Your book did, and becoming friends with you, you've helped me see things that I had misinterpreted a lot. And you are so pivotal in my healing journey. I just want people to know that if there are some people who would like to reach out to Lily later on, I'm sure we'll share that information because she really is instrumental in helping people, not just women, but it's anyone who's gone through some kind of trauma. And it doesn't have to be a sexual abuse trauma. It could be any type of trauma because you're so in tune with all of that. um, I'm so excited because I'm going to just start throwing things at you. You ready? Throwing baseball, here
Ooh,
we go. um, you talk a lot about the healthy healing journey and how we move through it. And one of the things that you talk about, and I used this today and when I was doing my presentation, when we were talking once, you said we have to create a testimony, and I may please make sure I say this correct, so that we can build a bridge, so that
correct.
we can invite other people over to heal. Can you
Correct.
talk a little bit about that? And that imagery is so amazing and powerful, that we're building this bridge.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is a nice imagery, right?
Yeah,
So the thing is, as a survivor of abuse with sex abuse, I'm a survivor of domestic violence, right? But any survivor of any sort, anyone that has any kind of sordid story, past, you, it's I hate to use the word embarrassing, but it's like embarrassing. You don't really want to talk about your story, or maybe you feel like you got up and over it, or maybe you want to suppress it. Whatever reason it may be, it's okay. I definitely have compassion for any of you that really, you're not ready to tell your story. But what John Michael's talking about is I talk all the time, most recently, about not denying your survival. Because when you're denying your survival, it's living your life in shadows. And look, if you're in a shadow, it's an empty, dark place to exist. No one wants to exist in shadows, right? So I don't suggest that you live in the past, replaying your old ugly story. In fact, I talk about that in Truth to Triumph a lot, not living in the old story. However, here's what I know. And here's what I learned in the past decade: your testimony is a bridge, literally, not physically, but literally in every other way, a bridge that you build to help others get to the other side. And it's in that building of your bridge, of that bridge, that's what creates the healing in your life while you're getting busy building a bridge for others. And so it's in that building of that bridge that you find healing.
Beautiful. That is so beautiful. And I like the idea. And while you're talking about it, I kept having this sense of, you said, don't get stuck in the past or what happened with the event. And if we start looking in the future, we start getting this anxious feeling. And the
Mm-hmm.
building of the bridge always seems to me when I'm talking to you is in the present, in the moment. If we
Mm-hmm.
can stay in the present, in the moment, that's when miracles can happen. And
Yes.
that's when that bridge develops.
Right. And
Yeah.
that and yeah, and talking about miracles, for me when I was building that bridge, not only was I finding healing, but I really found all of a sudden this relationship with God. It was
Mm.
like he was helping me build that bridge every step of the way, every present moment at a time. And yeah, of course, that bridge is present. And then once you build that bridge, bringing people across that bridge is present. So that's a really good point, John Michael.
Well, I think you can't build the bridge if you're stuck in the past or you're worried about the future. It just can't happen
Yeah.
because I don't think we can do all that stuff at once. And it was really interesting when I shared that statement with the room full of survivors today. They loved it.
Oh, thank you
They
so
loved it. They were like, "Oh
much.
my God, that's so beautiful. I get it now. I can picture it. I'm building a bridge so that
Right.
other people can build their bridge too, and we can all go through that." And
Correct.
I love the fact that you talk about this, and when you talk about how God helped you, and we see that. How can we talk to survivors who feel that God left them out or God
Oh,
did this to them? This is a really big one because it did come up in my presentation today about,
mm,
well, what if God is so great and God is so good, why did he do this to me?
no, that's a great question. I always tell, and that's such a common question, by the way.
Mm,
And I like that you asked it because if we're saying that God helped us, we should be equipped to answer that question. And it's really very simple. So God created free will, right? And so you have that free will to flip the script and change or go down a messy road while you're trying to dig yourself out of it. However, when it comes to something like um, let's say a child like myself or like you, that maybe, something was inflicted upon you when you were very young. I had someone on my podcast that she was born into like child sex abuse. I'm like born into it from the time she was 3, right? She didn't even know anything different. And like, so for things like that, no, God did not put you there. But here's what I'm going to say that I know that hopefully you can bring to people and also bring, this message is that one of the things that I learned, first of all, going back, let me just rewind for a minute, just so I have a lead way into this for our listeners, John Michael.
okay.
That truth that, your testimony isn't just to spread awareness, right? Most people, we spread awareness with it, and that's great. It can and it does, and that's a really good thing. But there is a grander purpose to it. There is a grander purpose to your testimony. And now let me explain. So, with all of the hardship and suffering, for instance, that I did during those days that I was living through a veil of silence, um, I, as a battered wife, just to be clear, in case someone's just logging in, there were yet more trials and tribulations, like I was saying earlier, that we're really quietly waiting on the other side of, let's say, that bridge, right? That someone else built for me. And I lost my marriage, I lost my business, I lost my home, my possessions, and to say the least, I lost my dignity, right? And so You would think that running for my life to safety with my son would be like, okay, great, kumbaya, bring on the peace. Sure, of course, it did to some extent. I'm not going to lie. But then it was all about navigating through that mountain, right? That was still very much in front of me. It was almost like running for my life and changing that chapter and putting that behind me, and that was it. Fine, but there was still I was still like kind of digging through that mountain. The mountain was still there. And so what went in my mind is a lot of what maybe people today you were talking about this morning, John Michael, might go in their mind. But I know for me, it was like, okay, you know, now how am I going to get through this mountain? And how in the world did do I get through this? And why me? Why me? Right. So the short answer is this: God, this I know, by the way, I know this to be true. Anyone wants to talk to me about it, I am the most compassionate person. Please go contact me through my website, lilysanders.live. God could have chosen anyone to put all of this on. But the reality is that he chose me. And for you that are listening as a survivor, the reality is he chose you. Why? Because he knew before even you were even in your mother's womb, he knew that you were going to be the one that would fight the good fight, that would endure and get through that mountain with lessons that only experience can teach. Perhaps, I would put to you, if he chose someone else, they would use their free will to become an alcoholic, a drug addict, and addictions, or commit suicide, or whatever really horrible, outcome like that. But he chose you. He chose you because he knew that you were going to endure. He knew that you were going to fight the good fight. He knew that you were going to get through that mountain, through the mountains, the only way through, right? The only way to the other side of the mountain is through it. Everyone will tell you that that's been through something really horrendous. And that lesson can only be learned through experience. I will tell you, you can't get it from a degree. There's no course on it. There's no master's degree that's going to give you that lesson. There's no book like my book or John Michael's, unfortunately, that's going to really give you that lesson except for experience itself. So God chose you because he knew that you would be able to do this. And that was a really big thing that I learned, John Michael. You want to live effectively in this life, go through something that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy, and then see how you navigate it. Because here's what I know: effectively living is not measured as much as by what you've accomplished. I don't care if you were a billionaire, but by what you overcame to accomplish it.
Wow. Brilliant. Thank you. That's brilliant. And it brings up this idea that I've been thinking about a lot too, is that once we start on this road that you're talking about, it feels like great. It's like the honeymoon stage, and everything feels like it's going in the right direction. I've made the choice, I'm going to move forward and everything. And then all of a sudden it seems like all of these challenges start popping up. Now, I just want to see how you feel about that. Are those challenges being brought up because we ourselves are creating them to see if we can still go through the mountain, or are they challenges as to see if we're going to go back to what we think is normal and what we're used to? We just survived this horrible or whatever issue it is, but for some reason that becomes normal and comfortable to us. We're navigating through the mountain to this new, happier area that we know it's over there.
Mm-hmm,
We also start second guessing everything.
mm-hmm.
And it seems like these challenges just keep piling up and piling up. How do you encourage people to keep going through the mountain?
Great question. Understand where those challenges come from. They don't come from the sky. They don't come from God. Where do you think they come from, John Michael? What questions your work to serve others? What questions your commitment to flipping the switch and focusing on your God-given talent or experience into learning something from God? The devil. The devil is always going to give that question in your mind. Are you sure? Are you sure about this? In
Mhm.
Truth to Triumph, I call it the liar on your shoulder. The liar is the devil. That's why you second guess because, and here's the very, very quick, simple answer. The devil is known as the prince of the air. He doesn't know what's in your mind. Only God knows because God created you and your mind is of God's mind if you choose to have a mind of God. But the devil works and his little agents work full time trying to flip your mind, change your mind, make you double guess, make you doubt, all of that, right? So it's actually those challenges, those are really the devil working full time to stop you from getting to where you're going, to stop you from looking for a mind and trusting in God. He doesn't want you to trust God. That's his mission here. That's why he's the prince of the air. That's his mission here on earth. He doesn't want anyone to even say the word God, you know? So, but he's really happy with, you want to dress up as the devil for Halloween. We were just talking about Halloween, you, me, and Becky, right? He's
Right.
he's all in on that, right? But seriously, and it's not a joke. It because when people understand that the devil's as real as God, then you'll understand that, okay, all right, that's the bad guy talking to me. That's not the Lord. That's not God. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, I think it does. And if anybody has more questions, please feel free to put them in the question in the area, or I can even the chat box, and
Absolutely.
Becky will share them with us, and we can address those as we go on. I also, you and I have similar backgrounds, which we talked a little bit about being in the theater. We both were in New York. We were doing off Broadway and Broadway stuff. We were doing soap operas. I did soap operas in New York and LA, and you were in New York. And we know the negativity of that business, inside
Mm-hmm.
and out. And here it is. You have gone through this path. You've gone through this incredible experiences who've made you who you are today. And now you're writing these incredible scripts. And the scripts are full of love and change and uplifting. And how do you feel that works with, it's kind of like me thinking of one of my favorite channels is the Hallmark Channel. I know everyone can make
Mm-hmm.
fun of me. I don't care. I will, when I'm feeling really low, I will turn on the Christmas holiday season of Hallmark because
Mm-hmm.
there's a sense that I know that it's going to go a certain way. Everything's going to work out okay. And everybody loves each other.
Right.
And your work in your book, it's all about love and hope. And yet, the things that become blockbusters are all about destruction and hate and
Mm-hmm.
revenge. How
Mm-hmm.
do you get to break through all that noise with your message and your mission?
Ooh, that's okay. That's a deep question. First,
Sorry, I didn't mean to make it too hard. No, no.
no, 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 that's okay. First, let me just clear something up. My my recent script, my pilot, um, without saying too much about it, it has the nuances of okay, well here let me just tell you a little bit because it's a very powerful story that
Mhm.
is got a lot of legs to it, which is why I made it a pilot and to become a series, right? And so one of the things I explore, I like to write things that people are not aware of. And I like to bring forth awareness in specific things that are like, So it is a type of show. Do I bring the question of humanity and moral ruin in there? Absolutely, because that's what I do.
Hmm.
But it is a drama thriller, and it is about organ trafficking, which I went down to El Salvador the very last couple of months before I launched Truth to Triumph. I went to El Salvador for 2 weeks to interview people for my next, which is the now, for my next, for my first screenplay, my next project. And it was finally time to do it, and I started it. And so, really, it is honestly, it's about a New York City family court judge. And I don't want to say too much on here,
Oh
but
no, don't give too much away.
yeah, it's really about organ trafficking, and it's and it also questions regular people like you and I, regular middle class people, questions how far you'll go to save someone that you love at the risk of other
Hmm.
people's lives or at the risk of just kind of questioning your own moral conscience and what you'll do for love of family, what you'll do as far as family loyalty or not, and really what one person does that gets involved with the corruption and medical professional
Right.
corruption and
Financial corruption, all
all the
that stuff.
nonsense that goes
Yeah.
down in El Salvador because it is uh, it is the most lucrative swept under the rug of all of the trafficking. We talk
Right.
about sex trafficking. We talk about child labor.
Labor
We talk
trafficking,
about
yes.
female trafficking, child trafficking, male trafficking. We're always talking about that, everything related to sex and labor. And but if you notice, no one ever talks about this. And
Right.
so I'm super excited to to get it out there. If there's any producers listening to this, go on my website or you can go on my professional, all the writers go to a professional site. So the producers know where to go to
Right.
find me, Lily Sanders. And yeah, so it does, though, come full circle, John Michael, because again, we're talking about moral consequences, um, uh, the criminal acts that are real in this world today.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, um, Woven themes of like desperation in there that are real today.
Right.
And all the strategic complexities that really go on that question one's temptation to go on the dark side. We were just talking moments ago before that question about God and the devil, right? Good and evil. So there's that always that temptation. You called it challenge in this show. It's really like, yeah, it's a challenge in the show, but really it's a temptation that one human person or many will have to go on the dark side. Whether that be money, well, whether that be a desperate way to save a loved one, whether that be, you know, some cultures excuse that that's just the way we roll, that's how we get on, and whatever that may be, you'd have to actually wait for it to be produced and see what happens. But the point is, while you're all of this going on, while you're really gauging the depths and the widths and the lengths of moral compromise.
Really truly believe it, and especially just from reading your book and getting to know you, that even though all these complications and these challenges and these dark sides pulling at you, you carry hope with it. You
Yes.
always are a presenter of hope in everything I've ever seen you do.
Yeah.
I've seen you do interviews with big time people where they're trying to pull you into the dark side of political statements, and you navigated it right back into what you were talking about so beautifully,
Hmm.
because there was that hope side of it, because you weren't going to put take any side on it on that, because that's not your position. And I just can't wait to see this, and I can't
Hope
wait
is
to read
big.
it.
And
Oh
there's a
yeah.
lot of hope, and there's a lot of love, and there's a lot of family complications going on during my story. And there's a lot of heart. So yeah, for sure. And and yeah, when I speak on TV, it's I always like to circle back to the reason why I'm there, and the point on hand is to give encouragement to
Hmm.
survivors to flip the switch, and inspiration and actual tools. This is how to do it.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And we talk about that. And I think that's one of the most important things that makes you so unique, is that you are presenting these tools and these ideas to help people,
Hmm.
but you've never let out the thought of faith and trust and hope.
Never.
Those three things are part of everything that you do, and you emit it. I mean, it just comes off of you. When we're
Hmm.
looking at you right now, all we see is this bright light coming off of you. Is like, I can talk about the organ trans or the organ trafficking, and I can talk about domestic violence. I can talk about sex abuse. I can talk about all these things, but I'm also not going to let you up on the fact that there's hope, that we can change it, and there's love that can do that. All right, so I took your book and I opened it up, and there is a statement that you have in here, and I want you
Uh-oh.
to try to explain a little bit about it. The
Okay.
death I gained with the death of ego, which is really the part of my thinking mind that had been hovering over me unconsciously, who I identified with.
Hmm.
Now, some people, and I think this has to do with a lot of survivors, want to put the ego and label it as equaling the devil.
Hmm.
Is that the same within your ideas and your vision?
Uh, Interesting question. It can be,
Okay.
and it can also be the um, your choice to identify with something that is not good. And so because of that, it kind of is. So you're unconsciously identifying yourself with something on the dark side, or something that, evil or the devil put in your head. For example, if Satan tells me that I'm never going to get out of this, and, this is who I am, and I believe that, then that's going to be in my thinking mind, and then it's going to take me miles away from God with his hand out there trying to pull me through the gap. So you have to always make sure as a survivor that you look for someone solid that can that is in the gap. That's why you, Michael, you're in the gap to pull other people through. I'm in the gap to pull other people through. Any advocates, they're in the gap to pull other people through. But make sure, just to be clear, that you're pulling them through the gap to pull them through, let's say across that bridge, right? On the other side. And now you're accountable to following everything in the good intentions that your creator would have you do, which means you're not an advocate where you're bashing the people that hurt you. You're not an advocate where you're on social media, blaspheming against, your perpetrator. Like, that's not what that means. You're not like, we talked about this, you and I, John Michael. There's that big saying, I got my power back. I got my power back. I got my power back. Like, what does that really mean? You could lose your power as quickly as you gained it if it's your power. Your power is nothing. Your power is nothing. What changed for me after 10 years is that I've accepted that I'm powerless without God. So my power comes from the Lord,
Mhm.
and my power will overcome all of that nonsense in the air, like the prince of the air and any kind of, those things that, those messages that try and come through, from the dark side, or those doubts, or anything that, or even to your point about the word ego, or, ego comes knocking on the door. Yeah, I mean, ego can be evil. And it's interesting that you asked this question, because when I wrote this book, and this was 2017, I remember at the time Eckhart Tolle was also very popular, and he was always talking about the ego and the ego and the ego. And I would love to get into a room and a conversation with Eckhart Tolle, because he never quite talks about the ego in a way, but yet he does talk about God a lot in his book. But let's call this a spade a spade. If the ego is bringing your mindset into something that's dark and unclean, then it's Satan. There's no in between. There's not. It's not like God and here's a name for something. It's God and here's Satan. It's God, Satan down here. Let me readjust my hands for people that are visually watching. But and at the end of the day, Satan's a liar. And guess what? Martin Luther King Jr., what did he say decades ago? Lies die.
Mhm.
Lies die. A lie cannot sustain itself. It's like fireworks in the sky. They're all bright and alive and loud, and then all of a sudden they wither and fall down to the ground. There's nothing. It's just quiet sky. That's it, right? Same thing with a lie. Same thing that anything that Satan creates. It's like that's it. And then after that, quiet is really the truth of and the presence of where you can be, where you can live in that space of presence. But that presence, to go a, a step forward than what Eckhart Tolle talks about, that, and he might talk about this. I don't really remember his book in the forefront of my head, but that presence, that's where God exists. So in that space of nothingness, it's really not nothingness. It's the mind of Christ. So that's the difference between the ego and not ego. I'm pretty sure that most people will tell you that the ego, it's not that it's bad. I think Eckhart Tolle says this too. It's not that the ego is bad. It's that it's very unconscious. Okay, well, what does that mean?
Mhm.
What does that even mean? So so your job as as a survivor is to be consciously aware that you have the most powerful creator that is in your conscience. So always be focused on that. Always be focused on him, so that when all of the other stuff is flying around you, you don't waver as much. You have something to keep coming back up to.
Wow, wow. Um, there's so much in there, and I want to share a couple of ideas and observations that I saw there. You said something very interesting about pulling people through, grabbing their hand and pulling them. And the thing that's really interesting to me is if that person doesn't want to be pulled, you can't do it. There's no way you can pull them because they have their own free will too. And it's really interesting when I'm talking to survivors how they talk about how they want to pull their family with them as they're going through the healing journey
Mhm.
and to discuss that that's not your job. Your job is to offer a hand, and if they want to take it, they can. But you cannot feel guilty that you didn't bring them with you because that's not, that gets something else. The other thing I want to share with you that was so eye-opening to me as you were talking, and you were talking about God, and you were talking about you came in through an up and out, like it was coming from inside of you, coming out. And then when you started talking about the ego and the devil, you started coming from outside to in. I don't know
Oh,
if you
interesting.
realized that
See,
you did that. And it was like, oh my God, people, look at that. She's talking about, and we talk about having to go in to find our truth and to find our passion and to find our light and everything. And it's always been there. We've just hidden it underneath all this garbage. And yet all this stuff is coming from the outside into us.
correct.
And I love that you showed that. And I don't even know if you realized you were doing it, but it was like, there it is, guys. That's what she's talking about. The
Yeah, well, I
cacophonous
can't.
noise is from outside. It's not coming from inside. And I read the other day on this book called I can't even remember the name of the book. I'm so sorry, but she was talking about the fact that God's voice is quiet. It's not going to be yelling at you. Everything else is loud to try to get your attention, but you need to quiet your mind to hear really what that Holy Spirit or whatever it is trying to share with you.
Yeah, the
And
Holy
if you,
Spirit. That's interesting. And I want to, okay, so quickly, I want to do this quick to respond to the first thing you said.
okay, I know I threw too many things.
Um, so the first thing you said was if someone doesn't want to get pulled through the gap, you can't feel guilty. Absolutely not. You can't feel guilty. So what is your job then as the bridge builder survivor that you are? Here's what you do. They don't want to get pulled through the gap. Understand that everyone has their free will. So what do? You pray for them. You stay as an example for them so that when they're ready, if they're ready, guess who they're going to call? They're going to call you. That's one. So let's put that aside. I wanted to just respond to that quickly.
Thank
And
you,
then the
thank you.
other thing is, yeah, well, the reason why I did that, that's natural because the God is in you. And then the Prince of the Air it's all coming outside of you. So absolutely, that was a great observation. And then the third thing that you said was, now I forgot already what you just said. See, now it went right out of my head.
And maybe it's something that it's not that important. Maybe I can't
Could,
even remember it now,
yeah. So,
to be
so I
honest,
don't
because
know.
we're
Yeah.
so in the moment of what was going on.
Yeah.
We were talking about trying to find our purpose and our
Yeah.
and our light from within, and which can lead into the next question I have for you
Okay.
is um, how do I find my purpose? Because that's a big one that I hear a lot with
Yeah. Yeah.
survivors because they
Yeah.
feel like they're lost. They feel
Yeah.
like they're separated. They feel like they're so alone, and they come up and say, "Well, I don't know why I'm here. I don't feel like I have a purpose. How do I find
Yeah.
my purpose?"
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I've been hearing for the last, let's see, I'm a life coach for now 15 years, going on 16 at the top of 2026. And the biggest thing is, and if I've heard it once, I heard it 100 times. I want to find my purpose. And I'm not going to lie, in the beginning, and I've done a lot of training for coaching, and I did a whole bunch of training even with Tony Robbins and like some serious hardcore training because I was going to work for him. And then I just, and then that's not the way, that wasn't God's will, I guess.
Mhm.
Anyway, I stayed on my path with my own coaching practice. But what I did notice the differences were there's all sorts of ways to how to find your purpose or how to live your purpose, how to live your purpose. And one of the things what sets me apart and what I do as a life coach, John Michael, is what I would put to you as a coach is I tell my clients instead, ask God what the purpose for your life would be. Ask God, what is it that He has purposed for you that is so special about you in this life? That's where your purpose lies.
Great. And I'm going to ask you a hard question for me to ask is how do I know how to pray correctly? And how do I know that I am worthy enough because of what I've gone through that God would want to listen to me?
Oh
How do
goodness.
I know that? Because one, I know a lot of survivors, like even today, they were asking, but how do I pray?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a right way to pray? Is there a wrong way to pray?
Mm-hmm.
What is praying? Because they're so in that healing journey that they're not sure, and
Mm-hmm.
yet this person over here says you have to pray this way, and this person over here or this organization says you have to pray this way, and they're like, I don't know which one is right, and I don't know what I'm doing. Is there what is the easiest way to do it? How do you pray? What is praying?
That's a great question. No one ever asked me that question.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to and excited to answer this for you, Joe Michael, because it's your personal question. And it's probably a lot of other people's questions for all the reasons that you just mentioned. So, no matter what denomination or organization that someone might go to, the truth is that they're back to, it's all God centered, it's all centered around the Bible. So, when the disciples, the followers of Christ, were asking Jesus the same exact question, he gave a blueprint, if you will, a very simple prayer. And believe it or not, it says it all of how you would actually speak to God. The first is really adoring Him. The other is it goes gratitude, and then supplication, what you're asking, right? And thanksgiving. But he puts it out very plainly, and he tells the disciples, "Our Father." This is how you talk to God. "Our Father who art in heaven, holy be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." So if you break that down, it's like you're honoring God. God, I honor you. You're in heaven. Let your will be done, not my will. But if it would be your will, and then you could, so
Mhm.
our Father, right? Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. So feed me what I need to know, what you want me to learn today. Feed me, your spiritual word, right? Um, and uh, and then there's I'm breaking it apart in my head, but
Right, right.
lead me not into temptation, but deliver me from evil. It's also asking, forgive me for my transgressions, right? So you're asking God for forgiveness. You're asking God to help you forgive other people that have transgressed against you. And lead me not to temptation, so that you don't continue to be tempted to do things that are unpleasing to God. And that is known as, in the Christian world, that is known as, what do they call that? The Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
The
That's
Lord's
like
Prayer?
the Lord's Prayer. The reason
Right.
why it's called the Lord's Prayer, because that's how Jesus was telling his followers, his disciples, how specifically to pray to his Father. "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen." But what happened is we all just memorize it and we don't even know what it means.
Right,
So
right.
to break it down, what I learned was adoration. I learned it by the word acts, adoration, right? And then you have you're giving you're asking for forgiveness. Then you're a supplication, something that you're asking God for, if it be His will, and thanksgiving, right? And so it's like a matter of talking to God first, letting Him know that you adore Him and He is the Almighty. You want this is what you need. Oh, asking for forgiveness before you
Hmm.
come to God. You ask for forgiveness now, and then you forgive other people. So if you have something against your brother, your enemy, brother, whatever, go and forgive them before you come to God. Then ask what you want of God. And the funny, not funny thing is, but interestingly enough, it's powerful when you learn to pray, and then pray with a loved one, because two or more are gathered together, the Lord will listen, will hear. He always hears your prayer. But I want to tell you something really quickly before we go. You said something that's very, very important, because a lot of people feel this way. You asked me, how do I know that God's even going to listen to me? How am I worthy? You are so worthy people that are here on the chat and listening in the recording later on are so worthy. Everyone is worthy. No one is any less worthy than the other. And you know why I know? Because the cross was enough, John Michael. That's why he died on the cross. For you, for me, for the world.
That's amazing. That's amazing. There's so much I want to go into, and I know we can't do it here. There's the idea of forgiveness and how do we deal with that. Um,
Part two.
there's part two that we'll definitely we could do it part two. And there's also this just a really quickly is like a lot of survivors feel like, and I have too, being raised Catholic, and then knowing that I was going through what I was going through, I felt that the Catholic Church said I was not allowed back in. And so I believed them, of
Mhm.
course, because I was bringing shame upon everybody, and which is really weird because I didn't think anybody knew that I was going through what I was going through, but I was being, and I just want to make sure that people know that if they don't feel comfortable in some kind of organization, don't stay. Find your people, find your group that you
Yes.
feel good in connecting with. And it doesn't mean that the Jewish faith or the Catholic faith or the Methodist are right or wrong or anything. It's what feels true to you, because we all have a tribe. I really do think we all have a tribe, and we're looking for that tribe. And that tribe could be just like you said, praying with your loved one.
Yeah,
Like
and
that,
find a good. I'm sorry, John Michael, that you were put through that. I really, it makes my heart sad. And you wouldn't be the only one that had gone through that, of course.
right?
But then go to a good Bible-based church that uh, does what God teaches followers to do, to have compassion and love on others and help them, save their lives, to not only just hope in this world, but eternal hope.
Right. That's great. That's great. One last question before we go. What would you like to share with our audience and our people who are survivors, and how can you encourage them to follow their truth?
Mm, good question. I guess what I would like to say in closing is don't be afraid or worried about people finding out your past. Instead, be more concerned with you not bragging about how God used someone or something or some event to pull you through the gap into where you are today.
That's beautiful. Lily, it is always a pleasure talking to you. I learned so much. And thank you so much for giving me the space to be myself and to ask those questions, because it just, I feel like I'm being heard. So thank you. And
Thank
I
you.
will pass it back over to Becky here in a second. And if people need to reach out to you, Becky, you'll share that, right? That information with everyone?
Absolutely, yes.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much. I love sitting back behind my screen and absorbing all the wisdom that comes through. I just feel so uplifted after this conversation. So thank you both so much. I really appreciate you.